Fallout 76 is a game with a very interesting journey. We all know the state it was released in, with all the bugs, crashes and other various problems. Bethesda however kept working on it, and with the release of Wastelanders that added human NPCs, made changes to original and added new storyline, along with other improvements, it is not the same game as it was in 2018. Despite all that, there are still some huge things that prevent it from being good. The worst one for me is the monetization system, with Atomic Shop and Fallout First. And even if Fallout 76 was an otherwise perfect game, these two features would be enough to make me consider recommending it. But it is definitely not perfect, and even outside of monetization, it still has a lot of issues, like slow combat, abysmal level scaling system, badly designed and useless mechanics, server problems, and a few more that I will be diving into. Still, when compared to the original 2018 release, it is certainly better now than it was back then, in terms of both content and technical state. Anyway, this review will be a little different. Instead of just talking about pros and cons, I want to take you on a journey with me and experience the game as I did, when I leveled up from level 1 to 45, and see where Fallout 76 succeeds and where it fails.
All of this just works.
After a lovely cutscene where we are reminded that, once again, war never changes, you wake up in a vault. Here, you will go through basic tutorial and meet a few robots who you can talk to about Vault 76 and the world outside. Once you leave the safety of your former home, you are greeted by two new characters who direct you towards the Wayward, a new establishment not far from here. So unlike in original Fallout 76, where finding Overseer and following her journey was your main quest right from the start, here it takes a backseat to treasure hunt added by Wastelanders. And game clearly wants you to do it first. So after discovering some locations and meeting locals, you arrive at Wayward, where you get your first chance to test out good old speed checks and try to defuse the situation without bloodshed, at which I failed. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the dialogue system, which is one of the main features of Wastelanders update. It is very similar to one from Fallout 3 and New Vegas, in a way that you control a mute protagonist, can finally see full sentences, and dialogue choices are no longer just yes, no or funny. You can build your own personality, be a douchebag, evil, good, sarcastic, or call out bullshit you see. For example, if you're sent on a fetch quest, you can comment on how you're doing all the work and these characters are just sitting there doing nothing. I really loved that you had this option because it is true. Writing and humor in general were pretty good. Characters had personality and you got to know them and their motivations for doing what they do. Dialogue choices matter. If your comments are too harsh, you can lose reputation with one of the factions or lock yourself out of some options. This is a step in right direction, and if Bethesda ever decides to do Fallout 5, they should definitely stick with this dialogue system. Anyway, after defusing the situation at hand, you talk to Duchess, owner of Wayward Bar, and she promises to help you with the treasure hunt if you help her as well. Wayward questline serves as a good introduction to Fallout 76. It teaches you basic mechanics, you get to explore the world a little bit, and it features great quests. They all have some unique aspects or scenarios that keep them interesting. As an example, in one quest you have to find the best possible body for a robot. While you can settle with something worse like a Protectron, your main mission is to get an Assaultron one. For that you can use your lockpicking, hacking or exploration skills, with game not holding your hand and letting you figure it out on your own. At first I didn't want to admit it, but I was really enjoying the game. Combat was a bit clunky, but most of enemies died in 1 or 2 shots, so I didn't mind it. Exploration was fun, and like I said, quests were great. Outside a few synchronization glitches or getting stuck at invisible pebbles, I also didn't encounter any bugs. Back then I was like, wow, am I seriously going to simp for 76 in a review? I couldn't believe it. Game was working, it was fun, and I was getting ready to be called the simp king of Fallout 76 because it was a genuinely good Fallout game. Once I was done with Wayward, I was around level 10 and went back to meet the Overseer in Sutton. Yes, she is alive, and no, this is not a spoiler, because you get to hear her broadcast as soon as you leave the vault. After having a chat, you find out that level 20 and a part of main storyline are required in order to continue. So yeah, we're back to the original story. For those of you that don't know, Scorched Plague has ravaged Appalachia and all of its inhabitants were wiped out. You follow the fates of all major factions that operated here and try to find a cure or a way to stop the Scorched once and for all. Now, to be honest, unlike a lot of people, I enjoyed the story. Finding out what happened to the original inhabitants of Appalachia is a fun mystery to follow, and outside of stupidly long audio logs, it was okay. With Wastelanders, there are also new NPCs at some of the key locations that will talk to you about the factions you are following. So thankfully it is not all just holotapes and notes. I don't think that it is worse than any other main Fallout storyline, and while I understand that some people dislike it due to lack of NPCs and a lot of reading, I was okay with it. One of the reasons I didn't mind was because I was enjoying the exploration aspect, mainly thanks to Fallout 76 world. I loved its atmosphere, art direction, color scheme and lighting. All these things combined create one of the most visually pleasing worlds to experience. Appalachia contains 6 different regions. You have Forest, the starting location near Vault 76, with woods and small towns, along with flooded Charlestown. Then there is Toxic Valley, a desert with an amusement park and tons of destroyed farms. Ash Heap with its mining facilities, Red Sky, and large industrial buildings and machines everywhere. Mire, a swamp with destroyed churches, bunkers and places with creepy atmosphere. Cranberry Bog and its metropolis of Watauga, city fully controlled by robots, or Fort Defiance, a former mental asylum. And finally, Savage Divide, with top of the world at its center, which was a former raider base, now occupied by Scorched. Each of these regions has its own fauna, flora and unique monuments that fit its theme. There were times where I started recording just because I saw a beautiful structure or view. Exploring parts of Appalachia was one of my favorite parts of the game, and I think it is my favorite wasteland out of 4 I experienced so far. Alright, so that's about it when it comes to good parts of Fallout 76. So let's move on to what doesn't work, starting off with combat. At first I didn't notice it because, as I said, most enemies died with 1 or 2 shots, but as you continue main quest, level up and move into more dangerous locations, you start to see it. While there are tons of different monsters that roam the wasteland, their AI is basically non-existent. A lot of times they get stuck in the environment or just straight up ignore you. It is easy to outmaneuver them, they don't use any strategy like flanking or hiding behind covers, and only thing that makes them dangerous is bullet sponginess and wall hacks. Most of enemies are creatures that use melee attacks, which means that you either exchange melee blows, find a spot they can't climb and chip away their HP, or just run around them and try not to get hit. But good luck with that, because it seems like no matter how much you try to dodge, you will always get hit, even if the enemy just slapped air half a meter away from you. And that's probably due to all the synchronization issues I talked about. Also, if you get hit by anything stronger, you get stun locked for like 3 seconds, so prepare to be gangbanged when fighting a group. Enemies with guns are not any better. Scorched are absolutely brain dead, and they will just stand around doing nothing most of the time, pretending to hide behind covers, or shooting through walls, which is a favorite pastime of all things that have ranged weaponry. Plus it looks like all of them have aimbot, so once again, even if you try to dodge or hide, you will always get hit, so combat turns into a battle of attrition, where you exchange bullets until one of you runs out of health. Your weapon selection until level 20 is weak, limited to single action hunting rifle, 10mm pistol, shotgun and pipe weapons. Yeah, remember those from Fallout 4? Those shitty guns you usually threw away as soon as you saw them? Well, here you have no choice but to use them, until you get your hands on anything better. And the reason why you can't use any good weapons is because they are all level gated. Yes, you heard that right. If you go out of your way to explore a location or defeat a high level enemy, the weapon you get can only be used from certain level. When I was around level 15, I found tons of great looking weapons that I could use once I reach level 40 or 50, which is like 30 hours of gameplay later. By that time you forget about them or have to scrap them due to limited stash space, which destroys exploration, because what's the point of exploring if I can't use anything I find? Why not just scale all weapons to your level or make them at least close to it? Also, there is this delay between shooting and hit registration, probably caused by server issues, where your hits register like 1 second after an impact. Combat in general felt a bit clunky to me. I don't know, it is hard to describe, but I feel like it was a lot smoother in Fallout 4. The weapon animations are sometimes delayed, sometimes they get interrupted or don't work, but most of the time it was pretty okay. There were just these moments that kinda took me out of it. At least weapon variety is decent, and you can use some interesting pieces once your level is high enough. During this time I also get to portion of main quest that I personally dislike, and that is Rose's quest. Rose is a robot that pretends to be a badass bandit and sends you on a never-ending fetch quest through half of the wasteland. Here you just go to a place, pick or kill a thing, listen to Rose's funny monologue and do it again. This questline also takes you through Savage Divide, which is higher level area, but the game doesn't tell you that, so you're gonna be fighting enemies that are way above your pay grade. Now I admit that this is partially my fault for not leveling up before taking on Rose's story, but the thing is, there aren't many other quests you can do outside of main one. There are maybe like 5 or 6 solid side quests with actual stories, and then you have daily quests. Daily quests are Fallout 76's way of making you log in every day and they all consist of killing random creatures or good old fetch quests. They are a good way of earning experience and resources, but I don't play Fallout games to grind, and also even though the game pretends to be an MMO, it is far from it. And these daily quests also take you to places that are occupied with high level enemies. So what can you do to level up? Well, you're either stuck with grinding low level mobs or pushing through, which is what I did. However, even if I level myself up to, let's say, level 30 or 40, it wouldn't matter at all because of one huge design flaw that completely ruins exploration, story and combat in one swoop. And that is level scaling. As you might know, there are multiple players in a world with you, and they can be level 10, 40 or 200. If one of them gets to a location before you, enemy's level will be scaled to theirs, and unless he kills them all, they stay there at that level. So let's say level 100 just runs through a town that has ghouls in it without touching any of them. If you, a level 25, go there after him, you will be met with level 60 charred ghouls that run like Sonic on crack and can two-shot you. And you can't do anything about that until you kill them. So you either abandon said location for now, or change server, and hope to God that no one on that server went to your location, so that level appropriate enemies may spawn. Fallout 76 has a lot of stupid design choices, but this one has to be the worst one ever made. Why would you scale enemies according to first guide that goes into location? Why not make their level set so that way everyone knows what they can expect when going into an area? For example, you set enemies to level 20 at the top of the world, to level 40 around Fort Defiance, and so on. Or if you want to keep the challenge for high level players, why not reset their level with each player that passes? Let's say that once again level 100 passes through location and does nothing. As soon as he reaches a certain distance away from that location, enemies restart, and the level is set according to the next player that goes through. Or how about removing levels completely? In a game where most players are high level, it makes it really hard for newcomers to do any exploring or quests, if they are always faced with enemies that are 3 times their level. So here I am at level 15 or so, going through worst part of main quest and getting ravaged by all these high level monsters, with shitty weapons and no resources, because I always get destroyed by whatever I face. Only thing I did for a good portion of that time was just run, ignoring everything and trying to complete as many quests as possible in order to level up. And this was maybe 15 hours in, and my simping mood was definitely gone. And game is like that until you reach at least level 25, when you finally get access to some decent weapons and armors. Plus you can also continue Wastelanders, but we will get to that later. For now let's continue with other mechanics that started to chip away from my mental health at that time. Starting off with survival mechanics. Just like in real life, you don't want to be hungry, thirsty and get diseases. So no, you shouldn't drink out of that dirty puddle that radioactive Brahmin just pissed in. Now as you can guess, I don't enjoy them, mainly because they don't add anything into the game, outside of making your inventory full of food and water, since your character apparently needs to eat and drink every 5 minutes. I mean, imagine if Fallout New Vegas had the mandatory hardcore mode. Fallout 76 is not a survival game like, let's say, Forest, so if you take this mechanic out, nothing of value would be lost. And I think it should be optional. You also need to take care of your weapons and armor, because they break constantly. To repair them you need junk, and you also need it to build your house for crafting and so on. So that basically turns you into a rat, and you will be cleaning any location you come across, picking every single item and scrapping it. The scrap economy is an interesting concept. Everything that had no value in previous entries is now more valuable than caps, and it encourages exploration. It is fun at first, but the constant cycle of gathering, scrapping and repairing gets a bit tedious. As you gather more scrap and other stuff, you will soon realize that your stash has a limited capacity of 800. That is not much, you can easily fill it with a few large weapons, some armors and junk. Now tell me whose right idea was it to make it limited? In a game where picking as much trash as possible is one of core mechanics, in a game that is trying to be an MMO with its drops and legendaries, why would you limit stash space? With this, you spend more time doing inventory management than playing. Also, remember those high level weapons I found when I was level 10? Well, I had to scrap all of them, because I didn't have enough space. And just so you know, everything is freaking heavy here. I mean, missiles weighed like 2 kilos. If Bethesda can't or doesn't want to make the stash unlimited, then at least double its size, or decrease weight of junk, armors and weapons. When it comes to other RPG mechanics, I like this new leveling system. Each time you level up, you pick one of special attributes and also get the perk card to it. Each special has its own set of cards, and more you invest in it, more cards you can use. Cards are themed according to special they belong to, so for example, Strength has cards that focus on melee weapons and carrying capacity, and Perception has lockpicking or weapon range and accuracy. Sometimes you also get card packs with different cards, and if you have a duplicate, you can combine them and level up a card. It is a great system that allows freedom and choice when building characters, and since you can remove cards at any time, it makes it easy to change builds instantly. I also enjoyed weapon modification system. There are tons of ways that you can improve your weapon, and I also like that you gain new mass by scrapping weapons of same type, so you have to choose if you want money or new modification from weapons you don't need anymore. Building your own camp is also a huge part of Fallout 76 gameplay. Building mechanics returned from Fallout 4, and it is possible to build your dream house that you can be proud of. Until you see what everyone else has built and realize that your 4x4 wooden shack probably isn't a pinnacle of architecture. You have limited but relatively large space to build on, and it is possible to place it anywhere, as long as it doesn't interfere with other players' camp. You can make workbenches, beds, garden, and there are tons of decorations to use. A lot of things are locked behind plants, and you can either buy those with caps, find them in world, or obtain them as rewards from quests. However, most of good looking stuff is in Atomic Shop, which we will get to soon. Building is a lot of fun, and it is great to see your base slowly expanding as you invest time and resources in it. Alright, now let's get back to me complaining. One huge problem I have with Fallout 76 is that it pretends to be like normal Fallout game while making it impossible to play it like one. First of all, since it is an always online game, you can't pause. So when you're in Pip-Boy, lockpicking or reading terminal, you can be attacked at any time. Fallout UI is also not that good, and it is bearable in classic Fallout games, but good luck trying to find anything in Pip-Boy while getting molested by 3 feral ghouls. Fallout menus are built around your ability to pause while you're in them, and that just doesn't work here. Next problem is that you can't save. In previous Fallouts you also didn't know if an area you are walking in was for high levels, but if you walked into one, you could be like, okay, this is too much for me, let's just reload previous save and try later. Once again, not possible here, so if you're in deep shit, you can either run or die and give up your scrap. Some people like this element of danger, but I personally don't enjoy it, especially if combat is not working half the time. This saving problem is a huge issue if you have a quest in an interior cell. I have a very good example for that. When you reach Fort Defiance, Brotherhood of Steel base, you have to move through it in order to gain access to upper levels. Fort itself is quite big and nice to explore, and it took me maybe 20 minutes to get through it. But right before finish line, my game crashed, and once I loaded back in, I was outside and had to do it again, because you can't save and game spawns you outside of interior cells. But since every time you play you get sent into a different world, I had to fight my way through it again. However, this time I also encountered the level scaling problem, and instead of level 30, it was filled with level 60 ghouls. And so I had to load into another world and explore it for a third time, before I finally got what I wanted. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that the developers basically took Fallout 4 and dumped it into an online world, without making any adjustments to its gameplay, UI or structure that are necessary if you're making an online game instead of classic one. When it comes to bugs, I mean, it is not as bad as before and most of bugs you saw in videos are gone, but it looks like with every update a new batch of them shows up. Like right now there is a fast travel bug that has been in a game for months, and instead of fixing that, they instead fixed something that wasn't even broken and pissed off a lot of players. Main technical problems this game has are the synchronization issues, where you sometimes get stuck on an invisible rock and enemies also teleport, or their HP doesn't go down, sometimes they glitch out, or quests break and you have to do them again. But it is not that bad, you get used to it. Bear in mind though that technical state is still far from perfect, and I don't think it will ever be, due to this old-ass engine. I also feel like Bethesda designed this game to be as insufferable as possible and tries to throw as many annoyances as they can at you. The survival mechanics, stage limit, bugs, being always online, level scaling, fast travel prices are there just to piss you off. And that takes me to worst part about Fallout 76, and that is Fallout First. For those of you that don't know, Fallout First is a subscription service where you pay $15 a month to get a scrap box, survival tent, few skins, items, and most importantly, private servers. And the thing is, it fixes like 90% of problems. Scrap box gives you unlimited space for crafting components, which means that it is entirely possible to remove stage limit for all players, but they just want you to pay for it. Then allows you to make a fast travel point anywhere, so you don't have to pay ridiculous sums for traveling. Wanna buy something cool? Well, now you get $16 worth of items each month. And Private World fixes all problems with level scaling and with the need to clear interior cells every time you load into a game, since you are only one in it, and it turns my dream of almost offline version of Fallout 76 true as well. It is such a scummy service. I mean, they're asking you to pay $15 each month to fix most of game's basic problems. $15 a month. While they can't put out the patch that fixes huge bugs, their servers are shit, there is not enough content, and there is lack of any events to keep game interesting. Any game that wants you to pay $15 a month for it should be in top shape, and Fallout 76 doesn't have any right to ask for this, especially in time where there are so many great free-to-play games. And while we're at it, screw Atomic Shop. It is one of the most scummiest places that preys on whales that like Fallout and want to have pretty skins and decorations that should have been in-game, but instead they are locked behind the paywall. Prices are ridiculous. A single skin costs $5. I would rather eat those $5 than give them to Bethesda. And of course I can already hear furious fans typing that you can earn items in-game and that you can also ignore the shop and not purchase anything. Well, first of all, I earned 1500 items in 53 hours that I spent in-game. I can buy 3 things with that, so that equals to around 70 hours of playtime for one thing. That is horrible. I think it is time to realize that Bethesda doesn't want you to grind for items and that they don't care about community. Only thing they want is our money. And by buying stuff from this hell shop, you only encourage them to push it more. So please, for the love of God, even if you decide to buy this game, don't buy a single thing from this Atomic Shop. And if you want to support Bethesda, then just go buy 10 copies of Fallout 3, an actual good game. What is worse is that outside of cosmetics, Atomic Shop now also sells repair kits, which, considering that this game is built on scavenging and repairs cost resources, it basically makes Fallout 76 a pay to win. I also think that making a camp and decorating it is one of core experiences, and when you see so much cool stuff behind the paywall, it hinders player experience. Overall, a deplorable, vile, disgusting shop that shouldn't exist, and I can never recommend 76 with clear conscience as long as it and Fallout First are here, because microtransactions and subscriptions don't belong in a game that I paid $60 for. I could excuse their existence if Fallout 76 was an actual working game with continuous stream of new content, but it is simply not true. But they will once again get away with it, because there are tons of hardcore Fallout fans that will buy this shit, since they love the franchise, and they still have these delusions that Bethesda does as well. Fallout was not made by Bethesda, and ever since they did Fallout 3, they just use it to test out various horrible ideas and to fund their other projects that they actually care about. I'm really sad for all the developers and managers that are trying to somehow save its reputation, while higher-ups just want more money. I'm also looking forward to their way of implementing mods. I'm almost 100% certain that there will only be paid mods, or you can only use them on private worlds. They should just let modders loose on 76. They would fix it, just like they fixed previous Bethesda games. With that said, let's return back to Wastelanders, only part of Fallout 76 that gives me hope for its future. After reaching level 20 and getting inoculated, you can come back to Overseer and begin the main part of this expansion. There are 2 new factions in Wasteland, Raiders and Settlers, and your first main goal is to meet with them and get them inoculated against Scorched Disease. You do a few quests with Overseer herself and find out about Vault 79 that is full of gold, and then you can do a few quests for both Raiders and Settlers before you pick a side and raid the vault. So even though you can start it off at level 20, I would recommend at least level 30, because it also takes you through places with high level encounters. While Wayward questline took me around 3 hours to complete, the main part will take you from 8 to 10 hours if you decide to do as many quests for both sides as possible. Now the quest and level design along with writing and characters is very good. There are some unique ideas and scenarios that I did not saw in modern Fallout games before. There is this mission I liked where you have to save a little girl from robots and then you move through this facility while she travels by pipes, giving you tips, ammo and helping you out. And you protect her and try to find her toy. Or one where you go to a fighting arena and then escape from it after winning the whole thing. Both of them are part of Raiders' storyline, and in general they definitely had more interesting characters and quests. Settlers mainly had fetch quests, with few exceptions. Humor is back, I had a few good laughs, and the final raid on Vault 76 is fun as well. So yeah, if I had to rate Fallout 76 based purely on Wastelanders, I would give it a nice 8 out of 10. Only thing I was disappointed with was lack of side content. You get like 3 new daily quests and that's about it. It is a very linear expansion. But the thing is, the game is not compromised of just Wastelanders, and before you can dive into it, you still need to pass through those 10 levels and face all problems I talked about before. One more thing I want to mention is that Fallout 76 has a very good community. I heard a lot of stories where high level players help newbies and I personally never had problems with anyone. Everyone was friendly. Online interactions are limited though. Surprisingly, there is no text chat and you communicate through emotes. What I like though is that you can set up vendor machines in your camp and sell ammo to any players moving through, setting prices and competing with other vendors in the area. I thought it added a nice community feeling to the whole game. Only thing left is Nuclear Winter. This is a battle royale part of Fallout 76 that was released when everyone was making their own take on genre. It features 2 maps, unique perks and rewards. It also has its own leveling system and gives you experience that counts towards normal mode as well. You play as 3-man teams and try to eliminate everyone. Honestly, I don't have much to say about it. Personally, I didn't really like it, but I don't play Battle Royale games in general. Only one I liked so far was Apex Legends. I mean, it is a nice distraction if you're tired of adventure mode and want to try something different, but I think there are a lot of better Battle Royale games out there. There is really nothing special about Nuclear Winter. So yeah, would I recommend Fallout 76? Well, I enjoyed around 15 hours, was annoyed for another 20, and the rest I didn't care about or was bored. There are too many problems that drag it down, and I simply can't recommend it without warning you about them. Only group of people I can say will enjoy Fallout 76 right away are people that just want to play Fallout online with friends. For that it is great, but you know, everything is more fun with friends, and if it is not, then you did something very wrong. For everyone else, wait for a deep sale, $20 at best, or try it out in Game Pass. Just make sure you don't buy Fallout first or spend even a single cent in Atomic Shop. I think that the first note I wrote down when playing 76 is one that suits it most. It is a game with great potential and ideas, wasted by bad design choices and greed. Until developers and higher-ups decide to fix all of its problems and stop chasing money instead, then I don't think Fallout 76 will ever have a redemption story like No Man's Sky, and in its current state, it is far from it. And yeah guys, I guess that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, a pretty long one. I honestly didn't expect this one to be this long, but I had a lot of things to say about Fallout 76, since you know I'm a fan of Fallout franchise and I'm sad that this game turned out this way. Anyway, I'm very glad that you guys supported my last channel update. It was very nice to read all your comments. I was happy about them. Like I said, I have my reasons for ending this whole thing, but I'm very glad I could provide you with entertainment for years and that you guys left such nice comments there. Anyway, like I mentioned in that video, the next project should be either a Stalker Call of Chernobyl review, or I'm gonna talk about RPG mechanics that I personally don't like in some games. I was also thinking of reviewing Stalker Anomaly, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a Call of Chernobyl or Anomaly video, but I think I'm gonna stick with Call of Chernobyl and see how it goes, and I might make an Anomaly review as well, if I have time for it or if the video does well. I'm sorry that this video came out this late. I know that I promised that it would come out the next week after the channel update, but I always get my predictions wrong. It always takes more time to do, especially if you have a script this long. It just, you know, makes the video process a lot longer. Anyway, outside of that, I've been doing fine. I hope you're doing fine as well. And I guess that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. Subscribe for more Fallout and other games content. And I'll see you next time.